However, each one of you also must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. Ephesians 5:33. Monica and I started off from day one in a rough marriage. Um, to begin with, as I said earlier, um, I came from a Catholic background. She came from a Baptist background. Tough. Day one, it was tough. And it didn't get any better for 10 years. There was no respect. There was very little appreciation for what each other did. And it went on for quite a long time, to the point to where we thought, we needed to break this and we needed to go our separate ways. But that's not what God intended us for our marriage. He really humbled me quite a bit. Before we could begin our relationship with one another, we had to make sure that we were okay with ourselves. God enabled us to do that. And there was no love, there was no respect. So once we recognized the fact that God was doing something in our marriage, we came back together and we began to instill a relationship with one another that was obviously needed and necessary for us to grow in God and in our relationship with God in Christ. And it enabled us to build a family unit that we were lacking from day one.
And I think a lot of it had to do with being selfish and wrapped up in what I wanted or what he wanted, as opposed to what was best for us as a couple.
And one thing we did recognize later on is that when we married each other, we married everything about each other. We married their families, we married their emotional baggage, their childhood baggage. We married everything, and we needed to recognize that. One of the things that I wanted to do for so long was to change Monica. She needed to be this way. She needed to be that way. But what I didn't recognize is who I was and the things that I needed to change within me. Monica and I are going to talk a little bit about Bill of Rights for married couples.
There are several aspects to showing respect in a marriage, and I think giving your spouse, the first thing would be to give your spouse the right to be different. We have different personalities, different likes, different hobbies. It's not our job to change our spouse. A lot of the things that we find annoying now were probably traits that attracted us to them to begin with. If we both were exactly the same, we'd have a very boring relationship.
After all, Monica and I are a little bit different. She's an only child. I'm one of 12. She likes a flat pillow. I like a fluffy pillow. I'm athletic. She's not. So regardless of how different we are, we need to love the traits that they have and love them for who they are.
The next thing, I guess that would bring us to the right to disagree. We will not always have the same opinions. We should be safe to express our opinions and our feelings, and be allowed to own up to those. I shouldn't have to feel the same way he feels. Me being able to have my own opinions and feelings will make me feel a little more important in his eyes.
And in doing that, we need to honor each other's opinion. And when we disagree, we need to agree to disagree and be done with it.
The third thing that we discussed was we should have the right to be told the truth. And in so doing, being honest about our emotions with our spouse, speaking in a loving and tactful way, not having things blurted at us without regard to our feelings. Like being secretly angry. If I don't tell him what's bothering me, he can't fix it.
Men are very good at being secretly mad. That's one thing that, I'll be honest, that I've done before. And when I do it, it just adds and builds resentment to your spouse. The other thing that I do when I start to begin to feel that way, I do my best to communicate to Monica what it is that I'm feeling. But one other thing that I've done to help me to deal with that and to get it out is I'll do something for her. For example, if I'm feeling upset or secretly mad, I will cook her or make her breakfast in bed. And that, for me, helps alleviate some of the resentment that I might feel otherwise.
I guess the fourth thing we had was the right to be heard. We should be able to express our feelings, opinions, our preferences, and know that we're being listened to and being paid attention to.
Do your relationship a favor. turn the television off, close your laptop, put the newspaper down, and focus on your spouse. It will do a world of good for your relationship. It truly will.
The fifth thing was the right to be imperfect. None of us are perfect, and we should feel safe to make mistakes without being belittled and told that we're stupid, because there's no one who's perfect. If you are in your relationship trying to be perfect all the time, you're probably walking around on eggshells and therefore not being genuine, and you're not having a truthful relationship with your spouse. We also discussed the right to courteous treatment. I think a lot of times we take our spouses for granted, and we don't use please and thank you, and
And one thing that I've noticed that Monica has done recently that really has changed my disposition when I walk through the door at the end of the work day where I'm tired and just been one of those days is she'll actually be happy to see me. Whether or not she's acting.
The last point that we were going to talk about was the right to be taken seriously. When we express feelings, emotions, we should not be laughed at, belittled, brushed aside as unimportant. I know for me, I want to feel like I'm a priority in my husband's life. I don't want to feel like I belong on the back burner.
But there is a lot of sarcasm in our house, and it's fun, but there is a time and a place for it, and we need to focus and understand that we need to focus on what is important and provide that courteous treatment and the genuine concern for our spouse that they deserve.
If you all had anything to say to a couple that was on the brink because they're in this cycle of he doesn't love me, so I don't respect him, and that keeps going, what would you say to them to do first to break that cycle? In my opinion, I think the first thing you have to do is, whether you feel it or you don't, is you have to start acting out respect. As a wife, I still need to understand the fact that he is going to work every day and he's providing for our family. And if nothing else, he deserves respect for that. And the more that I'm showing him how much he's appreciated and respected, in turn, the more he's going to soften a bit and want to do the loving things that, a wife needs from her husband.
And then that's no different for the men. They need to honor and love their wives. They need to recognize and realize that all the hard work that they're doing, whether they're a stay-at-home mom, at-home mom, or whether they're working and taking care of the kids, that's a tough thing. I have a close friend that recently got divorced that unfortunately he's not a Christian, but he gets his kids once a week. He could not believe the work it takes to take care of those kids for 24 hours a day. His first thing to me, he says, I don't know how my wife does it. Men, recognize that. Recognize what your wife does in your home and honor her and love her for it.
So you're telling people there's hope?
Absolutely. If we can come back from where we were, absolutely, anyone can.
Yes, absolutely.